Welcome to our first PropTech panel discussion with a networking event to follow. This is going to be the first in a series of PropTech events that we want to hold here at Fridman Law Firm, alongside with some other partners that are helping us, namely Michelle and Julie, who are part of the attendees. And just as a background, I'm the managing partner of Fridman Law Firm. We are a corporate and real estate firm. On the corporate side, we cater, 99% to emerging startup companies, emerging growth companies, and we are industry agnostic, representing companies around that span the gamut. On the commercial side, commercial real estate side, we do acquisitions, financings, dispositions for investors and developers, primarily in New York City and California. And I'm so happy that everyone's here with us today and excited for this great panel of speakers. I'm going to turn it over to the firm's senior associate, Tamar Katamadze, who will be moderating. And I think we are just waiting for our third speaker, Flores, to join the group over here, but we can get started tomorrow on introducing everyone.
Hi, hello everyone. Thanks for joining us for today's panel discussion. The discussion will be about PropTech Trends Post COVID. I will be moderating the panel discussion. This is the first of a series of PropTech panel discussions and networking events our firm is hosting, and I would like just to ask guest speakers to introduce themselves. Please, Chloe.
All right. Hi, everyone. My name is Chloe. I got into real estate in 2014, and I got started in PropTech not too long after that. My background's in technology, and it was very exciting for me to see how PropTech was able to really not only disrupt the industry, but really kind of like gap all the fragmented pieces of real estate. And with COVID, I'm really looking forward to sharing with you how that has changed the PropTech scene, but really has helped with integration. So that's me.
Scott, please.
Sure. Yeah, Scott Kohea. Nice to meet everybody. Yeah, I've been involved in different pieces of the built environment, from energy to agriculture to construction, and also I'm doing a part-time master's program at Cambridge University on sustainable urban development. And so I guess from my perspective, the sustainability of what's happening here with COVID is part of a larger picture of building towards a more sustainable future and more resilient future. So I'm pleased to be here with you guys.
Thank you. I think we have Javi here. Javi, can you hear us?
Hello? Yes.
Hello?
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes. We are about just to introducing our guest speakers. Would you be able to introduce yourself?
Absolutely, and my apologies. I'm having technical issues here. My camera is not working. As introduced, I'm partner at SevenTrainVentures. We are a venture development firm, and my area of expertise is real estate development, with a strong focus on travel and hospitality, so hotels, event centers, things of that nature. And I've also looked into how technology incorporates and helps the development of more efficient buildings as you look forward. And it's a pleasure to be here.
Thank you very much. I really appreciate the introduction. I'm really excited to have you sit down with us today. Just a little housekeeping before we get started. If you have any questions during the panel discussion, please type them into the question box, and we will have time for your questions at the end of discussion. Also, after finishing the panel discussion, please join our virtual networking, you will get a chance to talk with speakers. And we will publish a recorded version of the discussion on our firm's webpage. So I would like to give you a brief overview of the topic before move on to the questions. As with every sector in the short term, the COVID-19 pandemic has caused the PropTech investment market to slow down and investors to exercise caution towards their portfolios and towards new deals. Startups that rely on traffic in the built environment to demonstrate value, or those supporting industries such as hospitality and retail, have suffered. PropTech is an umbrella term covering a variety of advancements ranging from physical operations and maintenance to administrative software. There was a time when PropTech companies struggled to find funding, unlike their fintech counterparts. The lack of funding was caused because the real estate industry was slow to adopt new technologies at the rate they were being built. But today it's even being said that PropTech is the new fintech. It has grown substantially over the past 5 years. More than 70 billion was invested in the space between 2015 and 2019, including almost 25 billion in the first 3 quarters of 2019 alone, according to a report from Ernst & Young and Property Technologies event. Today, we address what could be next for PropTech after COVID-19. We will cover how the current crisis is impacting both investment activity and the adoption of technology throughout the real estate value chain and the post-pandemic changes in the industry. So I would like to ask our guest speakers to give some lights regarding the issues and answer our questions. My first question would be, how has COVID changed the landscape for commercial real estate developers, landlords, and tenants? I would address this question to Chloe.
Sure. So how COVID has changed it. So I think that a lot of what's interesting to me is I'm reading article after article about how all of the startups that are having VCs flush so much money into their companies now because they're super excited about, for example, something like Latch. And in my head, I'm laughing because that's been around for years. And we've had so much tech that's been available to us, from like 3D concrete printing to virtual doormen to, you know, like all of these kind of stuff, that it's just interesting now that they're finally getting integrated and getting the notoriety that they deserved for so long. And kind of like on a spiritual way, COVID-19 was the earth resetting itself. I mean, we've been moving so far into tech, and I love what Scott said about sustainability, because the world has been just going so far off in one direction that we kind of needed to recalibrate how we've been doing things. So I think that right now, commercial real estate developers have been very keen on using tech from day one, because I would say there's more money in there, and there's also more disruption happening. The residential brokers that I have, residential developers that I have worked with, and landlords in multifamily and in new development, have been slower to integrate just because the proof of concept wasn't there enough for them to like change their wallet spending. But I think now they are much more open to the idea of it because they see the necessity of it. So there's a few different pieces of technology that they're taking on, but I'll leave that, I guess, for another question, and I'm not going to say it all now.
Thanks. Okay. Yeah, Scott, would you like to add something?
Sure. Yeah, I think one of the big things that COVID is doing is it's redefining our landscape. So it's redefining our cities, it's redefining our homes, it's redefining the workspace, and redefining in the sense that what does it mean to have a city, and what's attracting people to the city, redefining the home, and what are the uses of a home. And in many of these cases, like for a home, we see those uses expanding. For other examples, like with what's the requirements of a city, or what's the draw to the city. We're seeing that there's been just a lot of changes in people's perspectives. I guess one of the other big things, even though COVID has been a health issue, we're seeing the built environment also pick up on that and also prioritize health. And so building with more sustainable materials, building so that people can live in a healthier environment, so our buildings have better lighting, et cetera. And so I think what COVID has done is it's made many things that have already started to happen move quicker as we prioritize health and also prioritize our planet, and being able to focus on both of those.
Thanks. Javi, what's your opinion?
I will concur absolutely with Chloe and with Scott. What we have seen, particularly on the venture side, is an acceleration of execution of ideas. As Chloe rightfully mentions, a lot of these concepts have been around. Some of them, had their run and then their timing wasn't right, so they folded. But the ideas have been there. And what we're seeing is that the trajectory that where development in real estate was going over the next 5 years has accelerated for the next 3 quarters. Adoptions, because we were forced into an immediate change of habits. And that forced us also to reconsider a lot of the things that we took for granted, like commuting. So work from home, work from anywhere, work-life balance, those things that are prevalent across companies, now they've been questioned, and that's giving ground to a lot of to acceleration of a lot of these ideas. From how do you what is the proper way to value an asset, value a real estate building based on its use, to, as Scott mentions, how do you redefine home use? What is it really for? So all of those questions and the solutions to that have accelerated, and I think it's a very fertile moment for us in the real estate segment.
Thank you. And what do you think, how will technology be integrated into property development, construction, or property management? Javi, would you like to start?
Thank you. The technology has always allowed us to push the limits into construction, whether it's from residential, commercial, and now what we're seeing is it's a more immediate adoption all across the supply chain, from procurement of construction materials all the way to the design of it, to where we live, and so I see that it's becoming ever more constant in our life. Digital technology, not just construction itself. We need to remember, a crane is technology, just as a phone is. But digital technology, artificial intelligence, machine learning, consumer behavior, understanding, preferences, all of that is coming more integrated. And it, in my view, it's kind of what you design the horse for the carrier or the chariot for the horse. And I think we're kind of doing both at the same time. How do you want to live? That's going to dictate how do you redesign your home. And the way you redesign your home is also going to dictate what else can you do. So digital technology it's becoming part of us in every aspect. And that's reflected into the way we're constructing, the way we're searching for homes, the way we're searching for offices, the way we lend, the way we borrow. Everything it's interconnected. And because of my experience, I like to put real estate kind of at the center of that ecosystem.
Okay, thanks, Scott. What's your opinion?
Sure. Just to add on to what Javi was saying.
Yeah.
It's not only the supply chain and the construction, but it's also looking at it from a life cycle analysis. And so it's also looking at it from a energy that's going to be utilized during the useful life of that building, as well as what's going to happen at the end of life of a building. And so, it's it's requiring the application of many different technologies that can look at embodied carbon, that can look at energy demands, that can look at those loads, that can look at a supply chain in detail, and to figure out where is the most efficient way to source it, not only from a cost standpoint, but also from an environmental standpoint. And so it's really requiring more technical capabilities to come in and do something that used to be done in the past without much thought of the consequences.
Chloe, please.
I love everything that they both shared. And I tend to agree more on the residential side of things. And so from what I've been seeing, and what's making me really happy is seeing that the data usage is really kind of coming up front and center now. So kind of like Xavier was talking about in terms of, by the way, your camera just worked. But but you know, when he was talking about consumer behaviors, I think that one of the biggest things that has made me passionate about technology has been, yes, not just the usage of, you know, things that have helped us in terms of understanding our buildings as a commodity, but also being able to help the end user, being able to build better, develop better, being able to understand utilizing AI and heat mapping and data to know which air conditioner coil is going to bust earlier than another, and like which elevator is unnecessary in terms of building a building. And then after that building is built, and then you build another similar building, you can also build better and more efficiently and stop waste footage and space. Am I here? Okay.
Yes.
Unused square footage, utilizing all the space, you making that efficient. But then also in the sales and marketing aspect of things, when you utilize and you are utilizing all the proper data sources and you're tracking what's happening, you can actually create marketing plans that are much more efficient than what they're doing right now, spending on average, just for an estimate, you could spend $5 million on just marketing a building that maybe has like a $250 million sellout. It's just, but it doesn't sound like a lot, but I think that even after the marketing campaign is finished and the new development is sold out, there's no end cycle. There's no analysis of what happened and what went through and how you can reuse this data on a similar building in another way. So I think that it's not just the integration of the technology that's making me happy. It's also the fact that now people are using the tech, and guess what we do with the tech? Data, consumer behavior, buyer intelligence. Now we understand the customer's DNA online and offline. We can start seeing and heat mapping and their journey between their phones and their computers and where they're searching and what they're doing. And now we have a very clear picture. So not only are we targeting them better in terms of marketing, but we're serving them better and we're more sustainable with less usage of wasted space that was from before.
Yeah, thank you very much. And another question I would have about environmental sustainability challenges. How is PropTech addressing those challenges? Scott, I would address this question to you.
Sure. So if you don't mind if I answer from the standpoint that I'm most familiar with, which is with modular home building. And just as an example, on a typical construction site, you will see a giant pile of waste at the end of the day or at the end of a week, and that all gets hauled off to the landfill, and construction and demolition accounts for about 40% of our landfill waste. Now, at the end of the day or at the end of a week, inside of a factory, when we can build things in a factory and we can integrate technology so we know exactly what we need, we can have things pre-specified. That waste at the end of the day may only be a dustbin. And so you think of I mean, there's some immediate cost savings there because you're not throwing away a third of your material because you're having to cut a piece of material and then the rest of it is discarded.
Thanks. Chloe, would you like to add something?
Yes. So unfortunately, my Wi-Fi cut out, and I believe you asked about the environmental effect on
sustainability challenges. Yes. Now the question was, how is PropTech addressing environmental sustainability challenges?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if Scott covered this because unfortunately I was cut out, but you know, I kind of mentioned this a little bit earlier, the fact that with the sales and marketing and a lot of, you know, like a new development would go up for sale and they would build out an entire model unit, but then they spend all the money building out the model unit, but then they don't necessarily create heat maps there and they're not tracking there. So I feel as if it's like a wasted expenditure as opposed to if you were collecting the data as well, and now you're going to build better, be more efficient next time, then it's worth that upfront cost. So that to me is something that makes me happy to see that that is going to be more eliminated moving forward. But also, you know, a lot of companies have been building really so much better. They have passports now for beams. So like each beam that is used to build a building has this global passport that now can be reused in other places. I mean, like the 3D usage of cement building, and I know Scott does modular homes. Like there are people now that are putting modular homes into their backyard instead of building carriage houses and having at-home offices. And that is something that is just getting people to start reframing what we've been talking about for so many years and finally getting it integrated. So that is really what's happening now, and that's what's great about it.
Thanks. I have a question regarding cost efficiency. In what ways will technology promote cost reductions in development or in property management? Javi, would you like to start?
So your question is how cost will
Cost, yeah. How, in what ways will technology promote cost reductions in development or in property management?
Tagging along a little bit on what Chloe mentioned, efficiency is the key for cost savings, and of course, aggregate data will help understand where's the waste that you can cut. Just like Scott was saying. Cost, once you analyze the variables, if you have the material cost, which is in part in itself has a labor component to it, and then the construction, and then there's waste in all of those. Technology will help us make more efficient, so you can actually use less resources, come to market faster, and those are the savings. Really, you have less waste. It takes you less, so the cost of capital for whatever it is that you're doing, whether it's in the building, on transport, it's less. And those are the real savings. Now, there might be, and those savings may compensate some of the increases in cost, like scarcity from some of the materials, specialized labor that you may require for certain things, particularly before it becomes very prevalent. But I believe that technology, just artificial intelligence, is just having millions of brains dedicated to solving that one specific problem that you have, and being able to democratize that is what's helping entrepreneurs today find solutions that will translate into savings, into efficiencies, along the supply chain for construction. And I think we're going to see the true impact of that. We're not going to see it immediately. We're going to see it in the short term as the adoption goes, and there's disruption along the supply chain for construction, for occupation, and disposal of assets.
Thanks. Scott, would you like to add something?
Sure. From a cost standpoint, our experience is there's at least a 25% cost savings as you can incorporate technology into a project, and that those cost savings come not only from a savings in time, and there's a cost associated with time. They come in terms of material usage, and they also come in terms of labor and how much labor and how many hours of labor are required. So from a modular home building standpoint, kind of our go no go is if we can provide at least a 25% cost savings, and we find that in most markets that we're able to hit that.
Thanks, Chloe.
So I feel like I'm saying redundancy. I feel like I'm being redundant right now. But again, it's the same thing like I've said before, is that this is going to save massive amounts of money when you have a new development, let's say, or it's an old development, or you're doing urban planning, whatever it is, you need to know what the end user wants to buy, what their lifestyle's like, what their net worth is like, how many cabinets in the kitchen. It sounds mundane, but how are you building out the spaces? How many spaces can you create? Can you make this into 2 units or to 1 big unit? Is it co-living? Are people do they want separation now? Do they want to live together? Are we micro living? Like, where are the trends going? Especially with the recent climate in urban planning, this is a major factor. And do you know how much money? And it's like, you know, I hate to say that it's cutting out labor, because humans start to get all freaked out. Oh, AI is going to take over. Now, we will need humans, but we'll need very efficient humans to do the right type of jobs. But I think the usage of technology for me means data. I'm all about data. So if I was a data scientist in another lifetime, that's how my brain works. It's all about like that. So for me, the way I see the technology, it provides us the data. So now we build better, more efficiently, give you exactly what you want, nothing extra, no frills. We market better. So you're saving hundreds of millions of dollars in marketing. You are going directly to the right consumer. You are providing them exactly what they need. You're building the correct building. And then if you are actually closing out the project correctly, you can utilize this data and reuse it again on another project. Now, of course, if it's in another location, you have to create some new data sources for it. But if you're a commercial office building and you're heat mapping with the HVAC coils and the leaks and the elevators and the usage of conference spaces and everything of this nature, and how cold it's by my seat and how warm it's by your seat, this is something that can be easily replicated across the board. And so by utilizing this data, I think it's saving a ton of money, because we're able to create efficiencies in this. I was going to say silliness, but I should probably find a more, a little more sophisticated word, in where we are wasteful. And by utilizing the data, I think that will lower the cost across every development, across multifamily, office, retail, across all asset classes moving forward.
Thanks, but how will the experience for tenants benefit from technology implementation? What's your thought?
Well, first of all, they'll have a better space, right? So they will be able to enjoy their space more because they're getting exactly what they want. You know, if they're able to, let's say, you know, they're able to pay rent online, they could put a maintenance request online, they can put their check online, they can track if their check has been deposited by the property manager's end of things. They know exactly when the maintenance is going to come fix their sink. They know they can let them in remotely and not even be present if the COVID rules and they want to be 6 feet apart. They can let them in. So the tenant is having an amazingly efficient experience, and there's transparency now on the property manager. If they don't like the property management company, all they need to do is rate them, and it's across the board. So now property managers are accountable, tenants are accountable, everything is transparent, right? Tech is all about transparency and efficiency. There's transparency now. Everybody is coming up to board, providing the needs that you want. There's less back and forth and emails complaining about something as silly as your sink is leaking.
Thanks, Scott. What would you add?
Sure. Yeah. I would add that there's the digital technology, and I would say that one of the primary objectives of that is to simplify our lives and to make it easier. And when it comes to housing and where we spend a majority of our day, I think a lot of people are maybe a bit reticent to have a lot of digital technology that's in their home. But where I would maybe change that perspective is there's actually a lot of technology, whether it's on the supply chain side, on the manufacturing side, as it's being constructed, et cetera. There's a lot of technology and new technologies that are being incorporated that make it so that that's a more enjoyable environment to spend your time. And so it's not necessarily all digital technologies that's coming, and on the data side, although that's extremely important, but sometimes the data is in the background, and it's helping to produce a different product, or maybe a more comfortable or a more sustainable product.
Thanks. Javi, what do you think?
I think I agree with both. I think there's going to be a lot of technology that is in the background that is simplifying our lives in ways that we don't see it. Just like when you turn on your computer, it's not just, what makes your screen work, but, the technology that had to be in place for you to connect to the Wi-Fi, for you to be able to, to use your microphone. So just in construction, whatever area, whether it's warehouses, office space, residential, there's a lot of improvements that can and are being made within technology, and that are affecting our lives. So it's not just about the technology that we can touch and see. There's a lot of the other technology, and that is being also aggregated into different sectors that at some point will start serving the real purpose of why we want technology, is to make our lives easier, more comfortable, better to each one's perception of it. So I fully agree with both of them. I think we're in that trajectory.
Thanks. And how is the industry thinking about the return to work and reopening their buildings? Scott, I would address the question.
Sure. I guess from the housing standpoint, we are getting a lot of interest from people that just want to be off grid. They want to be out in no man's land, and they're telling us that it's not going to affect their work in any negative way. I think a lot of people have realized over this past year that they can be efficient working remotely, and some people, actually a lot of people, the argument is they're even more efficient. They're not having to go to meetings, they're not having to travel, etc. And so, as we're redefining space, we're redefining our cities, we're redefining our homes. And I think this, the idea of returning to work, I think it's going to be not necessarily returning to work, but it's going to be continuing to work, but in a digital sense. And and that does have implications to cities and to office buildings. But it's, at the end of the day, it's giving more choices to the consumer. It's giving more choices to the employee. And so it is having, I guess, kind of a whiplash effect where, some people want to be in the city right in the middle of downtown, and other people want to be in the suburbs, and other people want to just be out in the countryside. And it's really interesting to see people's personalities and their preferences coming through, because now they have the choice to actually do something about it.
Chloe?
So it's funny because I'm such a techie that I just want to go off the grid. So I'm the person who tells everyone to utilize tech, and I have none in my house, and I refuse. It's just, that's my personal belief. I don't know. So I'm the person who loves being off the grid and going trail running in the morning, but then this is what I do all day. So I have a place outside and then in the city as well. And so I go back and forth. But in terms of going back to work, I think that like Scott said, the efficiency of working from home is working. And I think that what's going to happen is it's going to be a new type of working environment where there are going to be more hubs. So I think corporate headquarters will have more of these hub spaces where you can come in and out, and maybe there'll be like shifts in terms of teams, and like teams deciding when they need to have that check-in and check out and come in and out. But I think that this is like a trend that's kind of here to stay in terms of understanding the efficiencies. And it depends on your industry, but I think a lot of places are going to kind of keep this remote thing going, but have more of these like localized.
We lost her. Sorry. Javi, would you like to add something?
Well, yes, I would love to. And I will complement what she was saying. In one of my previous lives, I've actually started to see the emergence of that, with co-working and co-living. Yeah. Those conversations at a philosophical level were already happening where, headquarters didn't necessarily need to host everybody, allowing the flexibility of, we started off with working anywhere in the building. You like the couch, you like the reception, you like the office space, to then, working remotely and having this hubs spread around. So that I think is also being accelerated once we're finally in a situation where it's socially acceptable, what is safe, what is appropriate to go out and mingle again as a society. Not everybody will want to go 8 to 5, 9 to 5 to the office, but not everybody just wants to stay home. There is a lot of individuality will flourish. Now, let's remember that not all jobs can be done remotely. So I think real estate in certain parts is going to be influenced by those who can actually, by the behavior of those who can do work remotely. And that's going to open up a lot of opportunities for those who are in the service industry that have to be present. Like your plumber can't do work from home. Not really. The cook at the kitchen at the restaurant can't do that, but the accountant can. So there's going to be a shakeup, a very interesting shakeup. But their concentrations are not going to be there's not going to be such a density in certain areas. I think is going to help spread out and support that hubbing effect that Chloe was talking about. And that's, I see that as favorable as well. For whether it's personal reasons to going impact to the environment, to quality of life, that I think overall it's gonna be positive.
Thanks, Chloe. Would you like to continue?
I'm sorry.
Add something, or next question?
This question is fine. I think basically I said it's all predictive. We don't really know, but that's it for me.
Okay, thank you. So according to a recent McKinsey study, the construction sector has the lowest level of digitalization of any sector in the US economy. The real estate sector is a bit better, but it's still behind other sectors of the economy. So what are your thoughts on why real estate has historically been so slow to adopt technology? Scott, please.
Sure. I think I guess real estate, or maybe specifically construction, is terribly fragmented. And, it seems like the role of a developer is basically the role of coordination, or at least that's what it has been. Now we're seeing it change more and more to becoming more vertically integrated. And we're seeing opportunities here in the US that are following other countries that are in some ways ahead of us, such as Japan and Sweden, where they've already been more vertically integrated. And so as you become more vertically integrated, you have more resources. You can then essentially tie the different pieces together more seamlessly. Now, the opportunity here in the US is tremendous because we have been slow to adopt technology. And so we've been looking to the private sector and to startups and entrepreneurs to come up with technologies that can tie these pieces together, and to help one group talk to another group, talk to another group, talk to another group, and to basically circle up all of the data that's out there and to provide that common language for everybody. And so yes, it has been lagging, but I guess because of that lagging, it's created some tremendous opportunities for entrepreneurship.
Thanks. Chloe?
So I think that, I agree with Scott with the fragmentation of the industry. And I also think that what is interesting with real estate is that real estate in America is built on capitalization, right? And so because of that, in terms of money, real estate works the way it's working. It works. I'm not saying it's efficient. I'm not saying it's sustainable. I'm saying it works. And I think that what we've been seeing, these trends in other countries that are ahead of us, like he mentioned, Japan and Sweden, but also like Berlin and Tel Aviv, these other countries, I think, also care more about efficiencies and sustainability more than we have in the past. And so now that this is something that is also becoming which was originally a social issue, which now we're realizing it's more than just that, and it's getting more integrated. I think that it is helping us disrupt the real estate industry, and they're starting to realize its usage. That's why I think it took COVID-19 to actually have so much tech be integrated. Because if you look at it, a lot of it hasn't been integrated because they were like, well, Chloe, we're fine. Like, we don't mind spending that money. We don't mind, this wastage, which to me, like, breaks my heart. And I get so passionate about it. But a lot of people have not cared because it works, and they don't want to break the wheel that's working in case it doesn't happen to work, because there's no necessarily proof of concept yet. And so I think now that they were forced to, I think that this is going to just accelerate it, which is amazing, both for the environment, for sustainability, and for the technology world. So I think that COVID-19, obviously, I don't want to say this in a way that comes across as ruthless, but I think I'm obviously sorry. Okay, I'm sorry for anybody that has been affected negatively, and I think that it's a very scary thing that has happened. But at the same time, I think it really has helped reset our agenda, and like realizing how important having a 360 perspective and not just a capitalist perspective on the industry can really help both humans and the environment and our homes.
Thanks. Javi, please, would you like to add something?
I agree with both. It's very fragmented, and if ain't broke, don't fix it. That's what we've been seeing all along, until now, where we were forced into reconsidering it, and that allowed for the flourishing of new ideas and rethinking of how we do it. Because we also understand that, at least for the immediate term, things are not going to be as they were before. It's not like we went to bed and woke up and it's just another day similar than yesterday. Things have to change. Things will change. Things have changed. And that has forced a lot of this innovation and a lot of the adoption of technologies, of methods, of means that were in the way. They were at some point coming, but we now had to take them. So that's, as Chloe said, it's in no way a good thing what we've gone through, but it's forced us to reconsider and given us an opportunity to correct or to revise the many things that we did in the past and the way we did them. Real estate being one of those.
Thanks. And from investment perspective, what effect has the COVID-19 pandemic had on the PropTech investment landscape? Scott, please.
I think COVID's been a bit of a wake-up call, and as Chloe said, it's a terrible thing, but it's also, there's a silver lining around it, where it's been a wake-up call that we can and should do better. We can build better. We can integrate technology that is wildly abundant in other industries, and we can incorporate these into construction and into the built environment. There's no reason why this industry of real estate should be producing over 40% of greenhouse gas emissions. There's no reason why it should be extracting 40% of the Earth's minerals for use in construction. There's ways to do it better, and so I think COVID has been a bit of a wake-up call and helping us to see. And I guess I would use the analogy of the forest from the trees. Maybe the tree is COVID, but the forest is sustainability, and so we're gaining a new perspective on being more sustainable.
I agree. Chloe, please.
So I'm not on the investment side as much, so other than real estate investment. So I think that I don't have enough of an opinion to give on this, but what I've seen just through my PropTech clients has been investors are more keen on seeing the execution of either ideations or even, like companies that are just seed or bootstrap till now. So I think that investors and VCs are really happy to see more PropTech companies coming to light, and I think the wallets are open.
Javi, please. Go.
I believe that also it has to do with who's driving this wave of innovation. Yesterday, I was having a conversation on the topic of ESG as a serious component of investment, and one of the thoughts, one of the prevailing thoughts in that conversation is that up until now it was a nice to have, but it was a badge, but it wasn't really taken seriously. Because there wasn't a money value to it. It wasn't really what it should be. It was more of a philosophical approach rather than something you can account for. Now, between the founders and the disruptors, who are of a generation that, again, it's careful and is mindful of sustainability, are pushing this, and there's money to be made. So now we got the attention of the larger incumbent institutions, whether it's on the finance side or on the supply side, that I believe that this time around ESG as a measure of success is being taken very seriously, and hopefully I'm not wrong in assuming that it's here to stay rather than just another fade, and that should drive also how we're going to look at materials, how we're going to look at recycling of uses, how we're going to look at how do we map, just like Chloe was saying in the beginning, passport for beams, sourcing of materials. So I think that is now that we're finally being able to put a price tag on it, we're going to be able to see a stronger impact on it, and it just. But we need to be conscious of that going forward. It's one of those changes in attitude that everybody needs to adopt for it to work. It can't just be it's a patch coming out of this terrible situation, but we'll forget about it a year from now or 2 years from now. So I'm glad that we're putting a price tag on it, because then it's going to force everybody to take it seriously.
Thanks. I think I have last question, which is what's the next for the real estate industry and PropTech? What would be your opinions regarding our future? Scott, please.
Yeah, I will say people, planet, profits. And historically it's been focused on profits, but now we are having to balance that with people and planet as well.
Thanks, Chloe.
Can I use that?
Absolutely.
Scott, I love it. That's great. So I think for me, it's keep bringing your PropTech to markets. I'm happy to see you there, but please start looking at things in terms of data and start analyzing it and start being a little bit more predictive with it. Please, if you have a startup company and a PropTech technology, start focusing and build out a data department. And the reason is because that will help us be more sustainable across from construction to marketing to development across the board. And so just data, just make sure that you have a data department, because you don't even realize how much you're collecting, and that will help us with the people, planet, and profit.
Thanks. Javi, please. Would you like to add something?
First, I love both of their taglines, the PPP, better life through data. From my giving out my day to day, I'm a big supporter of the visionaries. I'm a big supporter of those founders, those people who see the problem and want to envision a better future, and are willing to listen. How can we implement this for the betterment of everyone? I agree. It must have a component of protection of the planet, of sustainability, and you can only get there through efficient and use of massive amounts of data. So you can't just have it laying around. You need to make ever more intelligent use of it. So what's next in PropTech? I think it's that. It's ever more intelligent use of data, more efficiencies, all of it with the goal of a better planet for everybody, from every aspect that you see it, from from the micro in my house to preservation of forests to safer traveling, everything in between. I think that comes next. And I hope that it gets accelerated, or at least continues at the same pace that we're seeing it right now.
Okay, thank you very much. I'm just looking if we have any questions from audience, but we don't. It looks like we have covered all of my questions. Is there anything else you wanted to cover or before I wrap up? No?
Thank you for your time.
No, thank you. I've learned so much today. This has been a fantastic discussion, I think. Great, thank you again. We can move to networking panel. And if people would like to take a seat with you and just ask some questions, we will have some time still.
Thank you very much again for the invitation.
Yeah. Thank you very much. Thanks again for joining us today.